That's, you know, we always think, oh, it's August or it's a Friday, things will be slow, and then it's like, that never happens.
No.
Nothing ever stops.
No,
It just keeps going.
Yeah, the Thursday when I went on vacation at the end of July. I'm still slogging away at 8:30. That might be
Yep.
why.
It defeats the purpose of de-stressing. Yeah, yeah. It knows. Yeah, it's like, let me make this as difficult as possible.
They're rolling.
All right.
Steve, what I was saying, I don't know how much I'm going to turn here.
But it's like fine to wander when it's rainy or cold, but like I hate when it's like sunny outside and you're like, I need to be outside. Perfect. Sometimes you just have to enjoy life, you know? When it gets too hard, you gotta just make something easier.
My dog and I were outside in the backyard just.
That's great.
I've got scaffold.
Oh, of course, yeah.
So it was.
One, two, three, four, five. Check, check, check. Why aren't you recording? I see you bouncing, but I'm not seeing any title.
Is your Wi-Fi on?
Well, I mean, it's just a switch.
No, because sometimes the app takes a second to actually transcribe.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't have the Wi-Fi on. Do I need like Bluetooth or Wi-Fi on?
You guys need Wi-Fi? I think we're... Yeah.
I mean, there should be the Maryland network on here. I mean, we run our own.
Yeah.
The Bluetooth is on.
Yeah, the only reason why I said the Wi-Fi is because... the only reason why I said the Wi-Fi is because sometimes the app, like Otter itself, has an issue transcribing. Alright, everybody's here. Alright.
Well, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
I have to say, you want to walk behind us?
I do, but I also, how much do I trust you that you're not going to do something crazy up there? I can duck down and just move you. Yeah. I know. I've seen you in action. There you go. I have. I think we were last in Ukraine together, maybe? No? Where were you last traveling? I haven't traveled with them. Oh, okay. Then I've just been hanging out with you domestically.
There might be the sign down by the cleaning room. You might want to
I know. And I realized when we got to the back, I'm like, wow, that's loud.
They shut that closed.
Yeah.
Everyone's phone's on silent.
This one is making a turtle. Making another turtle.
You know what I'll do?
Then we have to explain to people,
Oh,
what
is
is the
that?
turtle?
Yeah, me and Pat need to bash
Yeah,
that.
I know.
Yes.
Never call it a turtle.
I'll
We'll get
stay
through
right
this.
here, and then I'll just. So even though they're gonna stop right there, I want you guys to stay back here. Sure.
Yeah.
You're gonna be tempted, but I will stop you. I will block you.
What's that?
What's the name of the turtle?
Testudo.
Testudo. And I guess it's a terrapin.
Baby terrapin. I believe it's Testudo with a D as opposed to a T. T-E-S-D. I'm not positive, but it might be T-E-S-D. I have to Google them. Testudo.
No internet. How is there no internet up here?
Really? You could probably print something that'll patch the hole in the Gilligan's Island bug, but there's no internet.
Yes. Thank you.
That looks like their guys.
You guys come.
Got it. How you guys doing?
Good. How about you?
Good.
Good.
Yeah. It's good to see you.
My name is Nick Bentley. I actually work here at the University of Maryland. I'm currently pursuing a master's degree, actually collaborating architecture, and I help out with this Terraform Works operation. Yep. This is my counterpart.
So I'm Chinmay. I just graduated as an aerospace engineer. Thank you. And I'm just back to make sure our brand new machine is all in working order before I leave.
That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
So, all right, I'll go ahead and kind of kick this off. I'm just going to give you the spiel about what Terraform Works is, kind of what it means to a large school and university as a whole. Terraform Works was kind of founded right back around 2014, back in the 80s. Kind of put out a solicitation for what was going to be the next big thing in engineering. And one of the big proposals we put forward was like, why don't we do something in additive manufacturing? So fast forward, a couple of years, we go through some procurement processes and buy a bunch of 3D printing equipment, additive manufacturing machines, and we end up with some pretty awesome spaces. Started over in a different building where it was kind of like hole in the wall type thing. Didn't really had to kind of know where to get. But the nice thing about that was that it was co-located next to a student-run incubator space for a startup shop. We like to foster a big entrepreneurial ecosystem on campus. And there was kind of a really nice interaction and synergy that occurred between the Terraform Works operation and the startup shell. Students would come in, they could learn how to prototype, the part for something for a startup, and then go from actual part in the lab to starting a business out there.
And does that happen on a regular basis?
Yes. So we actually had, back when I used to run Startup Shell as part of my undergraduate career here, we actually had a couple of students, one in particular that could use the resources that Terraform Works provided to build his own 3D printer called ReadyBox. He actually exited and sold it to a larger company, and actually at the time was marketed as the fastest consumer 3D printer, which was a pretty cool experience.
And how did you decide on the focus on 3D printing?
The use case for 3D printing was that it was kind of it was an emerging technology at the time. So in 2014, Stratasys had come out with some of their very early on machines, and they were big infused deposition modeling technology. Since that was emerging technology at the time, we decided, okay, well, 3D printing is kind of the way to go. There was some early other stuff in polyjet process, which we'll explain once we go through the lab. We have kind of one at the printer we can show you here. As we have kind of fast forwarded through the years, we've actually continued to invest in new technologies and grow the operation. We moved over to Clark Hall recently in the last couple of years. That's the space you're in right now. and that's actually probably a good time to get right over to Jimmy and talk to you about the various functions of the space.
So this is the Advanced Fabrication Lab. Really, when we set out and got this lab, we wanted to kit it out with everything that would enable someone at Startup Shell, for example, to come into the space with any idea for a product or some sort of invention that will help people, and really walk out with something that's functional. They can show to investors. They can even use a couple of them to test in real-world applications. So really, you'll see kind of as we walk through all the spaces that we have the tools from beginning to end of the design process. So that really helps anyone that walks in, like we said, startups, but also students that walk in, student competition groups, researchers. We kind of help everyone, and we want to make sure that everyone has the tools that they need to do whatever they want to do. So really, starting over here, we're starting with the first stage of the design process. So here we have kind of our scanning area. This is actually a 6-axis scanning arm with a laser head scanner on it. What's cool about it is this is like real-world technology that people use in the industry. So, for example, this exact scanning arm is actually the one that F1 teams will use to inspect like the carbon fiber bodies of their cars. And you know what's cool is that students can come in. They can either be staff members or they can even just walk in, be a part of, be a student at UMD, and they can use this equipment. So it makes it very accessible for all these people. What's cool about scanning technology is it really allows you to do certain things that you're not easily able to do kind of by hand on a computer. Let's say you want to make a very organic shape, something that interacts with someone's hands or something like that. You could mold it out of clay, and then you could scan it in, and then you can have that design on the computer. Then you can play around with it and really integrate it into whatever you're trying to build. So this is really a great tool to make functional parts. Kind of stepping a little bit further into the space, now we're walking into where our workstations are. These are all high-power workstations with all the software that you would need to really take whatever you're starting with, whether it's just a 2D image or hand sketch or whatever, and then go to a final functional design. So all the design software you would ever need is on here. We will step in a little bit further. So really the idea is that everyone will be able to walk into the space, whether they're a student, and they can just use these computers, hop on and get going wherever they need to, whatever they need to do. Then we will try and step through here a little bit. Right here you kind of have our first big machine. This is actually one of the first polyjet machines that we ever had at TerrapinWorks. It has been resurrected. There was a period of time where it wasn't working at all. We have a donor machine down there, but we got it back up and running, and now we're running some test prints in there if you just want to take a look real quick. So I'll explain this technology a little bit later, but it's very interesting, has some really nice use cases. Alright, so then back in this corner, we really just have a bunch of different consumer-grade 3D printers. This is something that you would see kind of in someone's basement if they were doing stuff on their own. Really what we want to do here is provide kind of low-cost prototyping for people. So they've done their kind of rough design. Now they want to see like a physical model of whatever they're designing, and they want to see like kind of what the problems are, what they need to change, right?
So if I had a printer at home, what as a practical matter might I be, using it for? What would a consumer do?
A consumer can do a lot of things, right? Like it can go from simple things like desk trinkets or like little brackets to hold things together, all the way up through, like we've seen hobbyists will come in and they'll want to print like a mold of, actually we had someone who wanted to print a baby's foot. They wanted to basically have this real model of a baby's foot that they could mold out of silicone and then play around with it, because they were trying to build a device that would massage the bottom of babies' feet when they were in critical care, so that they would feel that touch and hopefully recover faster. So that's like one of the things that you can do with just like a consumer 3D printer. Very low cost, very quick. but we'll get to the things that the industrial machines are kind of better at. So Nico, if you want to talk really quickly about what you're doing here.
Oh yeah, so this is SLA, and so it's a resin-based 3D printing technology. And right here is someone, I guess, printed a little model.
Oh yeah.
Little guy. But it has a much higher resolution than some of these consumer grade 3D printers, and so you're able to get a little higher finer detail. And also this object is fully solid all the way through.
So how long did it take to produce this?
I think this was a couple hours. We started this morning.
Yeah, this
right?
is about 3 hours. So you can see like this has an amazing surface finish right here. There's text engraved right there. And it's a completely solid part. So you can do some nicer things with, these are kind of more expensive consumer grade machines.
Okay. All right,
and
we
then,
want to
yep.
hop on over to the next part of the work.
Yep.
We're going to head into this room here. Great.
We'll just step in a little bit further. Alright. So right here, kind of in this front area, we have a lot of electronics prototyping equipment. So we've done kind of the design, the physical prototyping, iteration, that all kind of happens in the front room. Now we have the electronics prototyping, so we want to be able to build the things that go inside whatever your product is. So really, we have all of the tools you need to make a fully functional PCB that goes in whatever product it is. So Nathan, do you want to talk real quick about that?
How are you?
I'm good. How are you? So right now I'm designing a PCB to, I haven't gotten super far on it yet, but it's going to decode some inputs into like a display. And so as soon as I'm finished with designing this, it's going to go onto that mill, and you can see the copper sheet in there. That's how the PCB starts, and then you do some chemical processes to it, and then at the end, you get a result that should look something like this. So these machines are super nice. Like this is the same process they use at the professional, like large-scale operations, and we can just do that here for anyone who wants to get a PCB made. You can hold it.
All right. We're gonna step around to the other room.
So we're going to head out the, out the back door.
Out the back door.
All the way out.
All the way out the back door and then around in the other room.
I'll turn around. You want me
Alright, so step right in here because this machine is actually doing a very large print right now. This is similar technology to what we saw out here on the big black box. This is polyjet technology. What it does is it's basically laying down resin in stripes across this building and then curing it. But what's cool is that you can actually mix different types of resin. So you can have resins that are of different flexibilities. So that white one will be very hard, and this black one will be very soft. And they can be printed on the same build plate at the same time.
This printer is super popular with our researchers because they can do a lot of kind of like medical technology stuff with it. One of the things that's happening right now is, I don't know if you saw in the news, there was like a Nintendo. It played Nintendo. This is
that was printed here.
Wow.
So you can actually, these guys will
They articulate.
and it uses air. That's the mechanism to actually articulate.
That came off of this machine?
Yep.
Sir.
Pretty much.
Alright. We'll step over there into the desktop metal area. And Garrett's going to talk a little bit about desktop metal, our brand new metal 3D printer here.
Yeah, so this is really the cutting edge right here.
Hey, how are you?
So Gary, you want to talk really quickly about that?
Sure. So these parts, the material comes in a stainless steel powder, and they are printed over here using binder jet material. So the print head goes across and it lays down the binder for the two-dimensional shape of whatever you're printing. Here's a better image on here. And then the coater comes back across, lays another layer of powder, and then this just happens back and forth until you have the right number of layers. So this total job is 662 layers. It's taking about 4 hours to print. So after they're printed, we take them out of here and we put them into our curing oven. And this runs for about 24 hours. We pull that out. We de-powder the parts, so we take off any excess powder. And then the parts are put into our sintering oven where they sit for about another 48 hours.
And then you end up with a solid stainless steel part like this. And you can see how this geometry might be a little bit challenging to do through any other means. But with 3D printing, it's all self-supporting. And you can print this shape very, very quickly. So, yeah. So this gets up to 1400 degrees Celsius. Yeah, very hot.
All right.
All right.
Well,
our mascot, we print a lot of those.
it is somewhat challenging. It really depends on the type, on the machine. Some of them have more stringent maintenance procedures than other ones. Connex is pretty stringent. It has like daily, weekly maintenance that you have to multiple. Some of the ones with Fortis, Ash will explain to you.
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, how you doing?
Good.
So this is the Fortis. This is a very large FDM printer, so it's kind of like the ones you saw in the front space. What's nice about this is obviously it's much larger than the other printers, but we also print in a variety of materials that aren't offered on typical FDM printers. So some of them would be like PPSF or Ultem, which are very heat resistant. So they come with like a lot of good applications for aerospace and whatnot. And we just finished part right now. And I think this is going to be used for advanced drying ovens over there.
That is
very sturdy parts.
one of the nice things about working in a 3D printing lab is that when you need a part
you can actually make it yourself.
Very good.
So next thing I'm going to talk about is this machine back here, which is the HP Multi-Jet Fusion 580. So what we actually made for you guys is the Department of State seal. So
Great.
It's actually very interesting. It's a little stand that you can put on your desk.
Oh, that's great.
And what's cool about it is this part right here was actually generatively designed. So this was actually made on the computer. I basically told it that it's going to have a certain load applied to it, and the computer decided that this is the most effective place to put the material. So this is one of those applications of additive manufacturing that you really can't do with subtractive, or at least it's much
And
harder.
one of the cool things about generative design is it's really applicable to infrastructure. So new bridge designs are actually generative design is being used in some of the bridge designs.
Yep. And then this is pretty much how it came off the printer.
That's
We
great.
actually just pulled these off this morning.
Terrific. Thank
Yep,
you.
in full color.
Let's see. Great. And it looks like there's one for everyone.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have
Another benefit of additive manufacturing. It's pretty much hollow inside.
and we expect that'll be displayed on your desk.
Oh, absolutely. We'll make sure. And I'll send you the photographic evidence.
Perfect. Great.
Thank you very much. You're very welcome. Greatly appreciate it. Wow. Good. Look, you didn't come away empty-handed.
is wrong after all.
And the camera, the
Excuse me, honored guests, if you don't mind taking your seats and silencing your cell phones. If you're in the front here, please be aware we are live streaming. So do not stand once you're seated. Okay? Thank you so much, everybody.
Good afternoon, and welcome to the A. James Clark School of Engineering at the University of Maryland. My name is Sarah Noland, and I'm a proud rising senior here. I plan to graduate this upcoming spring with a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering. I'm honored to address you all here this afternoon, and it feels particularly exciting to speak here in Clark Hall, my favorite building on campus. Even after a year of virtual classes, internships, club meetings, being back here reminds me of my favorite days spent on campus, brainstorming, prototyping, and prototyping again. Maryland engineering has taught me the importance of questioning everything, having challenging conversations, and embracing the impossible. Even before joining the university, our Clark Engineering School has shown me that as a woman in engineering, my perspectives and ideas are valuable. I'm dedicated to making sure the next generation of leaders will always see engineers that look like them as they grow up. After I graduate, I'm excited to drive change towards sustainability in the automotive manufacturing industry. I'm proud to be a part of the shift towards electrification in our American manufacturing systems, and I know that a long journey still lies ahead. I'm eager to live in a world where cars run on batteries, vehicle charging stations are found everywhere, and environmentally stable transportation is normalized and affordably available to all. The infrastructure required to accelerate towards sustainability is led by the bold inventions, brave decisions, and swift action from our engineers. And I'm especially grateful for the engineers that made my virtual college experience possible. As I reflect on the engineering behind virtual communication, I'm reminded of why I wanted to become an engineer in the first place, to make life easier and better for those around me. The past year and a half has also inspired me to reimagine what discoveries might be possible and what boundaries we can move in the future, even in the most challenging of circumstances. At this point, I'm honored to introduce our next speaker. House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer has devoted his life to public service. In 1975, he became the youngest president of the Maryland State Senate, and now, as Majority Leader of the U.S. House of Representatives, he is the highest-ranking elected official in Maryland's history. He's a strong champion for college affordability and federal funding for research and development. In addition, Leader Hoyer is a University of Maryland alum, and we are so proud to call him a Terp. Honored guests, please welcome Leader Hoyer.
Well, thank you so much, Sarah. I don't know whose this is. If it's yours, Tony. The secretary, I'll bring it back up if I can remember. Sarah, I was incredibly impressed as you were reading, strike that, as you were giving your speech. So I sort of snuck a look around and saw the teleprompter, but you gave it so flawlessly that it looked as if you had nothing there. So congratulations to you. We are very, very proud of you and all the students here at the University of Maryland that you represent. I'm going to take off Terrapin Strong for just a minute, Mr. President. I am so pleased to be here with my two colleagues who are such strong supporters of the University of Maryland. Our senior senator, Senator Cardin, and our junior senator, but a member of the Appropriations Committee, which makes him very senior in my eyes, Senator Chris Van Hollen, and of course Senator Jim Rosapep, who represents us in the State Senate, the former ambassador to Romania. So thank you, Sarah. On behalf of Senator Cardin and Senator Van Hollen and myself, I am honored to welcome all of you to the University of Maryland College Park. As you heard, the flagship campus of the University of Maryland system from which I graduated. President Pines, thank you for inviting us to campus for this wonderful event. Over the past year, you have already shown yourself to be a great leader for this university in a time of challenge. We are so pleased to have you in the leadership. And as Dean of the Engineering School for the past decade, you demonstrated great ability in making this campus center of innovation and STEM learning. I'm sure that Jim Clark, when he gave such a generous gift to the university, thought of his investing in people like you and the people who work with you. Dean Breider, thank you for hosting us today at the Clark School and for continuing that legacy of prompting cutting-edge research and innovation in science and engineering here at Maryland. The University of Maryland College Park has become one of the great public universities in our country. Ranked 11th in the country among public colleges by Forbes magazine. Maryland is home to more than 40,000 students, learning in 12 schools and colleges. It was listed as number 3 among public universities for undergraduate entrepreneurship. I have an agenda I call Make It in America, which is about entrepreneurship. That was done by the Princeton Review and ranked number 14 for research and development by the National Science Foundation. What incredible statistics. How proud we are of this university and this campus. Each year, the university sends its students to over 300 study abroad destinations, and 14 students were named Fulbright Scholars, Mr. Secretary, in 2020, with more than 50 accepting Fulbright grants to continue their studies overseas. Last year, U.S. News and World Report ranked the Clark School as number 12 among public engineering schools, and it was in the top 10 for public aerospace and computer engineering programs. So, Mr. Secretary, you come to one of the quality institutions, not only in this country, but in the globe. It is no surprise why the University of Maryland College Park and Clark School of Engineering were chosen today as the venue for the Secretary of State to talk about American innovation and leadership in the world. When I was a student here, as I told somebody, our nation elected John F. Kennedy to steer our country through the crisis in the Cold War and refocus America's attention and resources in the mid-20th century to conquering the new frontier of science and space. In his inaugural address, President Kennedy declared, "Let every nation know, whether it wishes us well or ill, that we shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe, in order to assure the survival and the success of liberty." And I would add to that, free enterprise and entrepreneurship. Since that day, America has prospered when we have invested in our strength and training generations after generation of graduates to help our country, and indeed the global community. Help them to compete and lead the global economy and promote our ideals of freedom and democracy around the world. President Biden is steeped in the experience of foreign policy, committed to restoring America's place of leadership, and understands that we must continue to empower those who have always been the instruments of our global leadership and success, our talented young people. That has been his approach to restoring American leadership in the world. President Macron of France, upon meeting President Biden for the G7 summit in June, said, quote, "What you demonstrate is that leadership is partnership." America, Macron and other allied leaders declared, is back. As a matter of fact, after the election, Macron's quote was, "Welcome back, America." Deeply engaged and expert in America's approach to the rest of the world, President Biden has selected someone as his chief diplomat who not only shares his deep knowledge and experience, but also his vision. Secretary Blinken has already served in many of the most senior foreign policy and national security roles in our country. He understands what it will take to make President Kennedy's words ring true and to carry out President Biden's mission to build America back better by ensuring that we can lead the world and the global economy in this century as a partner. He knows that it starts with young people, with talented graduates, with innovative research and discovery, and with a commitment to learning and teaching. So I'm honored and pleased to welcome Secretary Blinken, who I count as a dear friend, to a place where these are paramount, where students from Maryland, students from America, and students from around the world gather to dedicate themselves to the betterment of our country and our globe. And now I'm honored to turn it over to President Pines to welcome Secretary Blinken to the University of Maryland College Park, that he may join in the long tradition of American leaders choosing our campus to share their vision and call Americans forward to great endeavors. President Pines.
You left your Terrapin Strong mask.
Oh, I remember Tony's.
Good afternoon, and welcome to all of our guests and the many dignitaries joining us here today. Thank you, Sarah, for lending your voice to today's event. Welcome to university deans, faculty and staff, and students and distinguished alumni. To the public servants of the U.S. State Department, thank you for being here. To Senator Ben Cardin, thank you. To Senator Chris Van Hollen, thank you for being here and all that you both do for our state. And of course, to our graduate, Leader Steny Hoyer, what can we say? We are so most grateful to have you as an alum and the work you do for the great state of Maryland and for the nation. To State Senator and former U.S. Ambassador Jim Rosapap, thanks for all that you do for the University of Maryland College Park and for everything in the greater College Park area. Our special guest, Secretary of State Antony J. Blinken, thank you for being here and representing the State Department. I am proud to welcome all of you to the great University of Maryland. And welcome to A. James Clark Hall. It is fitting that we are here today to talk about infrastructure because you see, we are here in Clark Hall, and Mr. Clark, who was a 1951 civil engineering graduate, was a builder. While the Washington, D.C. city skyline is dotted with dozens of Mr. Clark's towering structures, he built more than buildings. He built beautiful and immaculate labs like the one that you are sitting in. Because when you invest in science, infrastructure, you invest in the spaces that spark innovation to dramatically change our future. That's not hyperbole, that's fact. The world is a better place because of research born out of the University of Maryland and its labs. If you walk up just 2 flights of stairs to the Bob Fischel's lab, we have Dr. Fischel's research and more than 200 patents to thank for modern medical stents, lifetime pacemaker, and implantable insulin pumps, improving the lives of many. If you walk just 1 block west, and you'll find the Physical Science Complex built with federal funding from NIST and the state of Maryland and lawmakers from the state of Maryland and the governor's office. It's the home of groundbreaking research, quantum research, that fueled the birth of a firm called IonQ, which is set to become the first publicly pure-play quantum computing company in the United States and in the world. Make no mistake about it, quantum science will be instrumental in solving the grand challenges of our time, including climate change, threats to human health, and economic, social, and educational and environmental inequities and injustice. At the University of Maryland, we attract some of the brightest minds, like Sarah, from around the world to develop transformational technologies, ideas, and social innovation. Through our billion-dollar research enterprise, the University of Maryland is leading transformative advances in areas ranging from clean energy to quantum science and technology, cybersecurity, computer and informational sciences, revolutionary new materials, and human health. We are educating the next generations of thinkers, planners, builders, healers, and yes, leaders. Using leading-edge laboratories and research instrumentation and supported by vital government and private funding, we and our university partners are creating knowledge and technologies that our country and world needs. Secretary Blinken has noted the critical importance of the U.S. maintaining our scientific edge. I commend the Secretary and President Biden for their commitment for improving our nation's scientific infrastructure. And so I'll close by remembering my good friend, Mr. A. James Clark, who made this building possible and so many, many more. Before he had earned the money to invest in the University of Maryland, scholarship dollars were invested in him, making a Maryland engineering degree possible, which is a reminder that just as we start out learning what we cannot fathom, true visionaries are building toward what many cannot even imagine. And with that, I am honored to now introduce the 71st U.S. Secretary of State, Antony Blinken.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It is wonderful to be here at the University of Maryland, College Park, one of our country's outstanding public research universities, to be joined by some of the students, university leaders, and public servants who help make this community such a dynamic place to learn, to teach, and to create. Mr. President, I especially want to thank you, both for your kind words, for hosting us today, and for your leadership of this institution. Leader Hoyer, it's always an honor and a pleasure to be with you. I know you're a very proud alum of this university. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us, as well as to my colleagues and friends, Senator Cardin, Senator Ann Holland. Now, I'm flattered to think that I had something to do with you being out here this afternoon, but I know that's not the case. It's this university, the University of Maryland. I know your strong support across the board for this extraordinary institution, and I'm glad to be able to share in that with you today. And Sarah, a special thanks to you for a wonderful introduction. Look, in the unlikely event that engineering somehow doesn't work out, diplomacy, think about it. We may want to bring you in. Thank you so much. The best part of today for me is getting to spend time with some of the extraordinary young people here at College Park. As Secretary, I'm often focused on events that are taking place thousands of miles away. The last lab that I actually toured was at the University of Copenhagen, so across an ocean. But I wanted to come here today to the University of Maryland, 10 miles from the State Department, because, as has been noted, the innovation happening here and at thousands of colleges and universities across America is a huge source of our strength. And whether America protects and invests in our strength at home is going to determine whether we remain strong in the world and deliver results for the American people. I've got to tell you that maybe more than at any other time in my career, maybe in my lifetime, old distinctions between domestic and foreign policy have simply fallen away. Our domestic renewal and our strength in the world are completely entwined. And that's why I'm here today, because there's nothing we can do that will enhance our global standing and influence more than what our domestic renewal can deliver, particularly when it comes to the strength of our workforce, our economic dynamism, the quality of opportunity we offer our people, the resilience of our infrastructure, and the power of our innovation. And I'm here to tell you that we could be doing better. That is the hard truth. We're falling behind where we once were in the world. And our rivals, slowly but surely, are pulling close behind us. In some areas, they're already ahead of us. And this matters. It matters because if these trends continue, we'll be less competitive in a more competitive world. The weight of our diplomacy and our ability to advance the interests and values of the American people will suffer. And the democratic model and way of life will be less able to withstand a fierce challenge from authoritarian governments. Most of all, investing in our domestic renewal now will make our future more secure, more prosperous, more free. So what I'd like to do today is talk about the foreign policy, the national security case for public investment at home, because it's vital that we act. And let's start by stepping back for just a minute. I think you all know this very, very well. For a long time, America made big investments in ourselves. We established universal elementary school. We made investments in public secondary education. Between 1910 and 1940, the percentage of American teens in high school went from 18% to 70%. President Lincoln signed into law land-grant colleges like the University of Maryland so that more people could get higher education. President Roosevelt signed the GI Bill so more service members and veterans could go to college and get job training. And more than 50% of its beneficiaries went on to start a business. These and other programs weren't perfect. We know that. They weren't equitable. Many people were left out because of their race or gender. We're still working to close those gaps today. But these investments helped America's economy leap ahead and made the United States workforce the wealthiest and best educated in the entire world. Through the decades, we also invested in roads, in railways, in highways, in ports, airports, power grids, water systems, a vast public infrastructure that was the foundation for us becoming the strongest economy in the world with a workforce and standard of living that set us apart. But in recent decades, our public investment as a share of the economy has fallen more than 40%. We're still relying heavily on those earlier achievements, schools, roads, and innovations created a long time ago. Meanwhile, other countries have doubled down. For example, China is spending 3 times as much on infrastructure as we do every year. And it's not just China. The United States now ranks 13th in the world in the total quality of our infrastructure. And if we don't make major investments soon, it'll be more than just 12 countries ahead of us. We're falling behind on innovation. 30 years ago, we ranked #1 in the world in terms of how much we invested as a share of our economy in research and development. It's how we won the space race, mapped the human genome, built the internet. Now, we're #9. China used to be #8. Now they're #2. Here at the Clark School, students are learning advanced manufacturing technologies like this Hyperloop pod for maglev high-speed train travel, created by the award-winning UMD Loop team, made up entirely of undergraduates. I just got a tour of the Advanced Fabrication Lab and saw some of what you're creating here with 3D printing. We as a country should be doing much more to support this kind of work. The bipartisan U.S. Innovation and Competition Act, for example, which the Senate has approved, would boost federal funding for U.S.-based semiconductor manufacturing and provide $52 billion over 5 years for research initiatives. Because research in fields like robotics, artificial intelligence, nanotech, and solar cells is racing ahead, and too often we are not the ones out in front. We're missing out on the chance to build and lead the industries of the future. Now, there's no question that the free market can do a lot to spur investment. The creativity, ingenuity, and dynamism of the American private sector is unmatched in the world. It's our greatest competitive advantage. But there's some things that even the most vibrant private sector can't do on its own. Public investment is still vital. Moreover, America's entrepreneurs are able to do their path-breaking work in part because of the foundation provided by public investment. The work of the most brilliant scientists is rooted in publicly funded basic research. Companies run on public utilities. Public schools help educate their workforce. So public and private investment are both essential. It's not either or, it's both and. Now, make no mistake, we are still the most powerful country and economy in the world. We're resilient and entrepreneurial. There's a reason the world's most successful companies are born here. Our network of alliances and partnership with other countries is unmatched. Our military is the most powerful fighting force on the planet. And the American workforce is outstanding. And that includes all the people from other countries who move to the United States every year to work hard and build better lives for themselves. Because this is still the place where the world's strivers and dreamers want to be. As President Biden says, it's never a good bet to bet against America. Never has been, never will be. But we became the United States of America because past generations of Americans reinvented, renewed, and reinvested in our core sources of strength. They used American ingenuity and determination to do it. And they didn't just prepare for the future, they created it. They shaped it. Now, it's our job to take up the baton and carry it forward for future generations. I believe our domestic renewal is the most important thing we can do to advance our foreign policy for 3 reasons. First, this is about our global competitiveness. We're competing for jobs. We want the high-skilled, high-paying careers of the future to be created here, not somewhere else. We're competing for investment. We want the investors, the companies, the countries to look at the United States and say, that's where we want to be. And they're much more likely to say that when they know that everything about operating America is top of the line, from the reliability of our broadband, to the efficiency of our ports, to how well trained our workers are. We're competing for trade. For too long, we thought we could trade more with the world while investing less here at home. That didn't work out for our economy, for our workers, or for our communities. President Biden has made clear that before making more trade deals, we must first make a generational investment in our own competitiveness. Our domestic renewal comes first. If we do that, we'll compete in the 21st century global economy from a position of strength. We'll keep faith with American workers, shape the terms of global trade, ensure that labor, environmental, and intellectual property standards are protected, and stand with our allies and partners when others seek to take advantage of them. We're also competing for the best and the brightest. One of the most powerful, I'd say even magical things about the United States is that we have long been a destination for talented, driven people from everywhere on Earth. No other country has that kind of pull on people's imaginations and ambitions. And that also goes for our universities. There are thousands of top international students here at College Park getting a world-class education. We're lucky they chose us. We want always to be the place that represents opportunity, possibility, achievement. Investing in our domestic renewal now means that we can continue to be that beacon to the world. Second, our domestic renewal is a foreign policy priority because it empowers our diplomacy. Now, take it from me, when you're sitting at the table with foreign leaders, trying to persuade them to align with your point of view, or join your coalition, or stop doing something that you disagree with, it makes all the difference in the world to be operating from a position of national strength. And that goes far beyond military might. If your economy is growing, if your people are healthy, if the cultural life of your country is thriving, if your country is known to give people from all backgrounds access to opportunity, it all adds up to greater diplomatic strength. Countries pay attention to these things, and they pay attention if you aren't strong in those ways too. This is particularly important now because it's no secret to any of us that the Chinese and Russian governments, among others, are making the argument in public and in private that the United States is in decline. So it's better to cast your lot with their authoritarian visions for the world than with our democratic one. We can, and we do, remind them that we continue to be an abundantly strong country by measure after measure. When we met with Chinese officials in Anchorage in March, our first topic of discussion was what we're achieving here at home: a robust economic recovery, a massive national program to fight COVID. We wanted them to know that we will emerge from the pandemic stronger than before and better able to rally our friends and partners in the world to stand up against aggression, abuse, and coercion. Nothing would put to rest faster their specious argument about America's best days being behind us than if the United States made serious investments in our domestic renewal right now. It's a lot harder to say a country's in decline when you're watching it become stronger, more effective, more united before your very eyes. I can tell you, too, that from my own experience so far as Secretary of State, when I tell countries that America is back, they believe it because they're seeing how much effort we're putting into building our alliances and partnerships and showing up again in the rooms where decisions are made and democratic principles are defended. But they will believe it even more when we make major investments in our own renewal here at home. And that will make my job of advancing our interests and values around the world easier because there'll be no question that America is back. I can also tell you that our friends around the world are also hoping that we'll make these investments. They want badly for us to succeed because they know that when we're strong, they benefit too. Third, our domestic renewal is about standing up for democracy, and that is a foreign policy imperative. Democracy is under threat around the world right now. Authoritarianism and nationalism are on the rise, and the United States is out there every day fighting the good fight for political freedom and human rights. We're making the argument that our system, the democratic system, is the better one. But it's one thing to say it, it's another to show it. By investing in our strength at home, we can show the world that democracies can do hard things, and that we can do them without jailing dissidents, letting corruption run rampant, or violating fundamental freedoms. The more we and all democracies can show the world that we can deliver for our people, for each other, the more we can refute the lie that authoritarian countries love to tell, that our system is hopelessly polarized and paralyzed, and that theirs is the better way to meet people's fundamental needs and hopes. Now, I've said the word China a few times today, and it's true that when we talk about competitors, we often talk about China. They're a rising power, and they're full speed ahead when it comes to investing in infrastructure, growth, innovation. But I'm not only talking about China here today. Many countries are making major investments in their own domestic renewal right now. For the United States to continue to lead and to successfully bring countries together in common cause for the good of all our people, we have to do the same. Plus, ultimately, this isn't really about anyone else. This is about us and what we can do to make our lives and our future even brighter. When President Biden gave me the honor of taking on the role of America's chief diplomat, he made it crystal clear that I had one job above all others: to help deliver for the American people, to make your lives more secure, create opportunity for you and your families, and tackle the global crises that are increasingly shaping your lives. My ability to do that, and the ability for everyone who holds this job after me to do that, will depend on the choices we make as a country now and in the months and years to come. At our best, the American people share a spirit of boundless optimism and possibility. People around the world are inspired by it. I hear that everywhere I go. We need to bring that spirit to bear in this endeavor, to renew our sources of domestic strength and invest in our future greatness. That's how we'll lead the world in the industries of tomorrow. And that's how we'll carry forward the eternal work of making the United States a more perfect union. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you.